And so it begins. The 2025 Fantasy Major League Rugby playoffs are here. The best of the best fantasy teams remain, some waiting until the final week to make the cut. We break down the weekend of matches that helped fantasy managers make the playoffs this year, plus look ahead to a week that should be full of exciting matches with a lot on the line. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 155 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR with you each and every single week. Matt Yee, I am Ryan Yee. Devin Vanderpool is getting ready for playoffs or something, or recovering from a bachelor party over the weekend where he said did not have any cell service. Yeah, maybe a little pre-game party for the playoffs that are coming up here in the world of Fantasy MLR. So no Vandy on this episode. But either way, Maddie, in the wise words of King Theoden of Rohan, and so it begins. And so it begins. Fantasy MLR playoffs are here. Are you ready?
Yeah, I've been ready. I've been just chilling at the top of the table, just trying to figure out when games are going to start mattering.
Am I being a little bit dramatic? For you, is it like, whatever, this is what it is? For me, it's a big deal. I mean, I think, again, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we are going to have another appearance by future Ryan, because
are you not speaking? Are you not potentially speaking too soon?
Unless Fitzy is able to beat me by 50 points. I'm looking at, hold on, let me see here. Either way, going into it he has to beat me by 50 points, and I don't think that's going to happen. So maybe I'm jinxing it. Maybe I'm not. Maybe whoever he has playing in this Monday night matchup has a scorcher of a week. I don't know if we've ever had a 50-point fantasy MLR game, but I still also have 3 players playing. So we got a lot going for me in this one. But either way, there were a lot of fantasy managers like that heading into this weekend where there was their fantasy playoff appearance on the line. Again, we do have a matchup on Monday, so we will have appearance from a future Ryan a little bit later on to give us a recap on that. But yeah, it sounds, Maddie, you've been sitting pretty here for playoffs. And hey, the Fantasy Ruckers team in the OG League sitting pretty for quite some time.
That is true. We have been laughing. That's why I haven't been stressing. That's why it's just playoffs.
It's playoffs, baby. Playoffs. It's playoffs. So obviously on this episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show, we're going to break down the weekend that was, that helped some fantasy managers book their ticket into the Fantasy MLR playoffs. For Vandy, we mentioned it last show. It was his first ever Fantasy MLR playoffs that he's made, and I'm sure for a handful of others out there, it was yours. It is yours as well. So kudos to all of you. We'll give a little shout out to all the fantasy managers out there that made playoffs for the first time. But we do have a week to prepare for as well. So we will talk about the week that is to come, waiver wires on top of breaking down last week's matches. As always, a jam-packed episode 155. So before we get into it, like we say each and every episode, if you aren't already, follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers. Handles up above, down below in the description. Check out the fantasyruckers.com, the official platform for Fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Website guru Alistair Kirschpool worked hard all season long to get that revamped, even some in-season updates that have been fantastic. And they joined the Discord community as well. Link down below to do that, to chat with some other like-minded and fellow rugby fans. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, do all the good stuff here on the YouTube channel, on the pod, subscribe. It helps us go a long way. All right, let's get right into it, Maddie, and let's talk a little bit of news and notes.
News dump.
Time for the TFR news dump. Talk about the latest happenings from around the league over the past week. And the biggest piece of news I think that happened over the course of the past 7 days is maybe not something that has much fantasy implication per se, unless he decides to suit him up and put on the cleats. But Antoine Dupont, who last time was here stateside on the West Coast, paid a little visit to the Los Angeles Chargers And I guess he liked LA during the visit because he is now a part of the RFC LA ownership group. So Antoine Dupont, obviously star French rugby scrum half, sevens player as well,
Mm-hmm.
decides that he wants to get in on the MLR action, joining a handful of other big time names that we've mentioned on this podcast before. We talked about Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch, and Marcus Peters not too long ago about joining the Seattle Seawolves ownership group. We know Patrick Chung. And is that a fly that's
I
going
don't know.
around in
There's
your
a
room?
little, I know there's a bug in here. It looks like a little tiny wingy thingy.
Your
So
your face, priceless when you saw that come up.
we'll
You
have to, we'll
scared.
have to get
It's like
that.
that
We'll
meme.
have to get that one after the recording.
It's like that meme at Cannes. It was Emma Stone who's getting freaked out by the bee.
Got him.
Quick reflexes.
I
Did you
think I got
catch
him.
the fly, my
I think I
young
just gave
one?
it a oh, no, I see it flying away. Well,
Either
it's
way,
dazed and
uh,
confused, so I'll get it.
joins also Patrick Chung and Nate Ebner, who are also notable owners of MLR franchises, being the New England Free Jacks. So Antoine Dupont joins that list. RFCLA, Maddie, thoughts on this one?
Yeah,
Good
no, I
side.
mean, it's awesome. I think what the MLR continues to need is support and exposure. And this is exactly the way that we can get exposure to communities and people and fans that are not the usual fans of the MLR.
Yeah,
Um,
obviously, but the
so yeah.
biggest, if not the biggest, one of the biggest names in all of rugby, Antoine Dupont. Like when you
And
put
the
your
stars
name,
of one of the biggest rugby nations in the world right now,
yeah,
and for years and
yeah.
decades.
So you put that name along with the MLR, always a good thing to have. Again, not much fantasy impact there unless Antoine Dupont decides to pull a Jackie Moon and suit it up. That'd be pretty cool to see. One can hope. But either way, Dupont will be
I think I
signing
got him.
some checks here for RFC LA players here in the near future. So good to see that come up here. And again, good for the league, like Maddie mentioned. Last piece of news that I want to mention is something that we talked about last week, and it has been confirmed during the Anthem Rugby Carolina and DC broadcast that Alama Ieremia,
Hmm.
the head coach for USA Rugby, is stepping away from Anthem Rugby Carolina for his USA Rugby duties. I find that maybe this is a little bit counterintuitive. I want to get your reaction there, Maddie. But Augustin Cavalieri, a former Dallas Jackals coach, is stepping in as the interim head coach. You would think that they would have thought this through, right? I don't know. Like, is it a downgrade when you have your head coach leave literally?
I I don't
I don't
know.
know. I
I
get
think
it that
I'm
USA, you want the
curious.
tie between the
Yeah.
USA Rugby and Anthem Rugby Carolina, but you would have thought that maybe this is not the best thing from a developmental standpoint to have a guy that maybe is handling both these duties if they're going to conflict.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should have been very clear that he was able to coach throughout the entire season. I mean, my thought is like, what if Anthem in another universe made
Win
it
him.
to the playoffs? Like,
Yes.
what happens
Yes.
then? Do their coaching does he just leave and like, hey, good luck in the playoffs, guys? Or what if they're fighting for a playoff spot and he leaves and now they're
Yeah.
dealing with the new coach? I'm interested to understand how much Cavalieri was kind of like Cavalieri, right?
Yes.
How much he has been involved in the entire program in general. Just because he can't start from scratch. He has to know of what they're doing, how they're the structure that they run, just the training structure, the game structure, what they usually do. So yeah, pretty weird. Don't know if that necessarily is the best way to go about it, but hey,
I mean,
I
it's
guess
like
it
you
is
said,
what it is.
it's swept under the rug because Anthem are out. So it doesn't really make a
Doesn't
big
matter.
difference.
Yeah.
To your point, Maddie, if that wasn't the case, it would probably be a bigger talking point. But it would be interesting to know kind of how this responsibility has been divvied up. I get it. Again, the link between Anthem Rugby Carolina and the development into the USA Rugby system. But
I'll just say that I think to their point and to their benefit of the doubt, I think the fact that players can have consistency throughout their entire pathway to the Eagles program. Oh my gosh, the Eagles program is perfect and it's great as you have consistent coaching styles, consistent ethos, I guess throughout the culture. That's something that's great. but you have to just understand how to organize that better, because I think
It's
they need a coach to be there for the entire season, or else this ends up being seen as like a, hey, this is my side gig as a coach. This isn't
right,
your
exactly.
dedication.
And
And Anthem needs that. Anthem needs somebody who's going to be there to sole purpose is how can I get these American players to win games in the MLR?
yeah. And I will say, right, like I get it. The focus has been on that USA Rugby development, but there are guys on that team that are not American.
Yeah.
Think of a Cliven Laubser who's there to play games. You know what I mean? So like in the
Yeah.
best interest
But
of that, like not there. But
yeah.
I guess that's the understanding when you go to Anthem to do that. But yeah, to your point, I guess there is a double-edged sword here when it comes to
Yeah.
USA focus versus I guess MLR as a whole focus.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Let's send it out though now to future Ryan, who makes another appearance in this one as we await the results of RFCLA and Chicago, which is the Monday night game. Future Ryan knows how that went down, and he is going to have the final results of the weekly challenge. So, hand it off to
That stinks.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here is future Supreme Commissioner Yee with your Fantasy Ruckers League update. We fast forward to the next day since the recording of past Ryan and past Maddie in terms of a exciting Monday nighter that we had between the Chicago Hounds and RFCLA, which I will be back for to break down in just a bit. But with that final matchup happening on Monday, we of course have some weekly challenge results to go over and obviously some other important updates to give the league members as we head into the playoffs of the Fantasy MLR 2025 season. So let's get off here with our weekly challenge results. And it was a close one between myself and the Fantasy Ruckers team, but it was John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning coming out on top with 48.8 fantasy points. I've been on a scorcher here with the TFR weekly challenge, finishing in third place behind the Fantasy Ruckers team, who finished in 7th. I had 37 points. Maddie's been consistent at 6th, but that early scorcher of a run that he had still has him in first place on the year, only scoring 32.5 this past week, but nonetheless still sits first in our weekly challenge playoff results. So congratulations to Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick for another weekly challenge victory. Now, with the final results happening over Monday, we do have some eligibilities and injury stuff to look at. I know throughout the broadcast, brought up by some league members and Discord community members about announcements of certain players that were injured. And obviously, we've been firsthand experience on this in terms of not having as much information as we would like to have when it comes to injuries and player availability. But nonetheless, some of the broadcasts doing their part in helping that out. I know they said Richard Judd, Christian Poitevin over the weekend facing some injury, and also in last night's broadcasting, Reese McDonald also facing injury as well. So keep on a lookout. Those players will be going on IR to help some fantasy managers out heading into the fantasy playoffs. And we'll see. It's do or die time. And that should help open up and alleviate some roster spots for some players, especially with San Diego on bye this week for the first round of the playoffs. Will help you pick up those streamers going forward. Also, eligibility. If you've been riding the cheat code that has been Juan D. Oliver, which we'll obviously talk about in the Houston Sabercats breakdown against the Utah Warriors in just a bit. He's obviously been scrum half eligible, but has been starting at back 3, which is an absolute play. If you're able to get your hands on Juan D. Oliver, it looks like this was the last week in which you would have been able to slot him at the scrum half position. So again, him among others will have some eligibility changes heading into playoffs, so make sure you check that out. Speaking of playoffs, it's here. We said it at the top of the show, and so it begins. Fantasy MLR playoffs, do or die. Alistair and myself will be working to get those brackets completed in terms of who is facing who, check the standings, make sure everything looks as it should be. And again, the top 4 teams from each league will be making the playoffs for a semifinal round this week and then a final championship round the next week. If you are in a 6-person league, the bottom 2 teams will be playing for a Toilet Bowl championship this week. Those 8-person leagues, including the Fantasy Ruckers OG League will have a toilet bowl semifinal this week and then a final next week. So still stuff to play for. Our very own community moderator, Stephen Lowen, is a proponent of that in terms of being a quite big veteran when it comes to toilet bowl championships. Still worth a little bit of something. Maybe not as highly coveted as the Fantasy Ruckers jersey that you get for winning the championship, but hey, toilet bowl, still something to hang your hat on at the end of a long, grueling 2025 season. So again, no midweek matches this week, so it's all steam ahead. Only San Diego on the actual bye this week. So again, make sure you are setting those lineups, do or die. It's the most important time of the year when it comes to Fantasy MLR playoffs. Last note that I want to mention here in our Supreme Commissioner Yee's League update is some exciting news. I know we've been teasing it in terms of the championship since it was announced that it would be taking place in Rhode Island on June 28th. I can confirm that the Fantasy Ruckers will be attending the MLR championship this year. It's the first time that we've been able to come out, but since it's in our Eastern Corridor neck of the woods, and we do have some exciting plans that are in the works, including a meetup on the night before at a to be determined location that we are working through. So love to have our Fantasy Ruckers community members who are attending the Shield to come out, have a pint, and meet us in person and have a good time. We are planning to have some giveaways, planning to just interact with the people in person. I know we've been all doing it through the ethos that is Fantasy MLR, but would love to meet our supporters firsthand and say thank you for all that you've done over the years. We are doing it in coordination of a special friend of the show who also participates in Fantasy MLR. So again, keep a lookout for those announcements, and we do have some game day plans in the works as well. Stay tuned for all those announcements that will be coming out for more details for the MLR Championship week. With that being said, let's send it back to Pass Ryan, Pass Matt for a breakdown of this past weekend's matches.
Quick Tap Recap.
All right, thank you to Future Ryan for giving us the lowdown on how the weekly challenge went and all the other good stuff of the latest happenings in the Fantasy Ruckers leagues. We will break down, of course, all of the matches that happened over the weekend and then toss it back to Future Ryan, time traveling here on this episode to give us all the good stuff on the Chicago Hounds and RFC matchup. So let's start off. Old Glory DC NOLA Gold was the early matchup on Tuesday. Obviously, no fantasy implication there. So in all fantasy intents and purposes, NOLA was on bye. But quick breakdown of this game. Old Glory DC coming away with this one 27-14 in what was a pretty, I guess, disappointing performance from NOLA. Coming up early and then Old Glory DC kind of working their way back and ending up triumphing at home in the rain against NOLA. Yeah,
it was pretty interesting. I mean, you look at kind of the way that the score was outlined and you kind of think, okay, NOLA seems to be in a pretty good spot here. But yeah, no, I think Old Glory just outclassed, and we see this so often with NOLA. Like, how many times, if we think about a game, you think of they're great in the first half and they absolutely blow it in the second half. Mm-hmm. And then you think about a season, they're pretty great in the first half and they absolutely blow it in the last half or last three quarters, I guess, in the case of this season, really. So yeah, just NOLA doing NOLA things, I guess. And just luckily, I guess it wasn't fantasy relevant.
At this point, does it feel like NOLA is going to be on the outside looking in with this? I mean, they are sitting in fifth place right now, 7 points behind Miami, who we're going to talk about in just a sec here.
Yeah, I think Old Glory DC, they've obviously skyrocketed themselves up to this, I guess, second spot pending Chicago's game. But yeah, I just think Miami's been on a tear recently. In Old Glory DC, that's what, 3 in a row after we get to their Anthem game later on. Nola's gonna have to find some form really quick in these last 4 weeks, if they're gonna do anything about it. But absolutely, they definitely have taken some of this out of their own hands.
Yep. No, absolutely. All right. Let's then shift on to that team that's been pretty hot, and they continue that against a suboptimal New England Free Jacks lineup, who became the first team in MLR to lock up a playoff spot. You can see, and you could have told me that by just showing me their New England Free Jacks lineup, because a lot of secondary players coming in, Leroux Milan coming off the bench, Jed Melvin coming off the bench, no Andrew Quattrin, Connell McInerney was in there. What other changes were in there? There was a whole bunch that was on that list in terms of not their ace side per se being out there, but Miami taking full advantage. They put up their number one lineup and they end up taking this one 30-19. And what was kind of all the way through a dominant Miami performance. Like Miami they looked pretty solid here moving forward. And I get it. You'll probably take some points off of your confidence there with New England putting out a less optimal lineup, but a win's a win. And in the standings, that's still going to count just as much here for Miami, who is in the midst of a playoff push here.
Yeah, and it was just really sloppy. I like both sides. It was a sloppy just game overall. A lot of drop balls. For me though, like I thought New England Free Jacks kicking was really reckless, and I thought this is what really cost them here. They just kept giving the ball back to Miami with no really aim. Like no aim of let's contest this, let's put it deep. It was just mediocre kicks, box kicks that were too deep, kicks that were kind of not really finding any grass at all. And to me, the other thing, the big thing is that, and I think maybe we see just how valuable Andrew Quattrin is to this New England Free Jacks team, is the lineup. Like they lost a lot of lineouts in crucial situations and crucial positions on the field. And you just can't do that. Even against a team like Miami, because Miami's hot. But yeah, Miami, I'm in terms of their play, love to see it. Like I think I loved seeing them win. I think they deserve it. The fact that they just exploited having Josiah Morrow, who's personally, with personal experience, he has been one of the best guys under the high ball and get best aerial attackers in on the field. Every time he gets on the field, he's one of the best. And that's been since he was like 15. So the fact that they utilized that twice in a row and New England Free Jacks had nothing to do with it, even though they had the numbers. Love to see that, and just love to see Ardejo and just how strong he was in this game as well.
Yeah. Stark contrast. Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Before we move on, just had to bring up, I felt like I had to. There was this moment in there, Ryan, where Jack Reeves, I think Ethan Fryer didn't give a ball early enough to Jack Reeves and he got tackled. And then he tried to give it off, and then something happened and they knocked it on. They turned it over. And while play was going, I watched Jack Reeves turn around, push Ethan Fryer, and basically put his arms up like, what the heck are you doing? I don't want to read into things too much, but I'll be honest, like right there, one, I hate to see that stuff from teammates. That's the worst type of teammate to have on the field. And two, you think about championship culture, that's not it.
Fair enough. Reading between the lines there, Maddie. Maybe that is a little bit of a sneak preview into what we can maybe expect or should be leaning towards in terms of predictions for playoffs heading forward. Either way, stark contrast though from the last time Miami met back in early April when New England beat down on the Sharks 43-6. I will say though, since that loss, Miami has won 5 of their last 6, including this including this New England Free Jacks matchup. Again, I'm not going to take too much away from this New England Free Jacks performance because of them not putting out their strongest side, but I mean, you can't doubt what Miami has been doing over the course of the past month and a half. Talking about fantasy performances, though, we had 5 double-digit fantasy point performances here. All of them coming from Miami players, except for one, which is our top player from this match, and that's Vian Conradi with 21.2 fantasy points. Had a down week last week, but or in week 12, but comes back here with 52 meters gained, 2 tries, 10 tackles in the full 80 that he played. Add a forced turnover on top of that. Vian Conradi has been pretty solid for you all season long, and he is in the triple-digit threshold now on the season at 113.7 fantasy points. 2 of his last 3 matches has been above 20 points. He's only scored outside of double digits 4 times this season. Vian Conradi has been as consistent as they come when it comes to back row players. Now onto the Miami guys. 14.2 for Marcus Young with the try that he scored and the full 80 he played. Shane O'Leary, who has been great from the boot. He has made
Yep.
4 straight matches now with at least one conversion kick. He's made 10 in the past 4 games. And then on the penalty side of things, 9 penalty kicks in the past 4 games. Or 11 in the past 5 games, I should say. In this most recent matchup being 2 conversion kicks, 2 penalty kicks, and a try to lead to 13 fantasy points for Shane O'Leary. We kind of know who the go-to kicker there in Miami is. And then you mentioned him, Matt Manuel Ardeo, 11.9 with the 71 meters gained and 11 tackles. And then we have the performance of Matthias Orlando, who scored a try as well for
1 meter gain.
11.3 for him. 1 meter gained in that one. We won't talk about that. We like the try, though. So either way, some strong performances there by Miami players and one notable one from New England.
For sure.
All right, let's shift on over now to the next matchup here of the weekend. The first one on the Saturday when we had the Houston Sabercats meet up with the Utah Warriors. I think Vandy will be happy that he was away for this one and out in the sticks.
I think so.
Because
too.
This one was not pretty. 27-0 at half for the Houston Sabercats. Utah not scoring their first try until 59 minutes into this match, when at that point the game was all but done. 37-7 there. I mean, it started like terribly right off the get-go with the Juan D. Oliver try that was a grubber kick.
That was a sweet try.
It was a sweet try. I mean, what a bounce! A fortunate bounce. You got to play the ball, and you got to make do with what you got. Just takes a bad bounce on. I forget what Houston player was covering that, but or yes, D'Angelo there, and just went the other way. And Juan D. Oliver captured that, scoring a try to open it up 1 minute into the game. I will say the second try for Houston with that Seth Smith set piece, I feel like we saw something like almost exactly similar. I just saw the highlight of that with Sam Kane in the Japanese league doing something similar, where Seth Smith threw the ball in, down to fake the maul, pops it out to a looping Sam Tuifua, and then gets it back on the inside to Seth Smith, which was beautiful. Well coordinated there.
Yeah, that's a classic set piece line-out move. Love to see that. Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about the sloppy kicking from New England Free Jacks. I think here we saw what it means to do positional kicking and what it means to be accurate off the boot out of the Houston Sabercats. And we saw this out of Drew Wild. We saw this out of Davey Kutzer. We saw this out of Jay Renton. Every kick that they put had purpose. Every kick that they put up had intent. And the number of 50-22s, I think it was like 3 or 4 in the first half. I'm maybe over exaggerating, but at least 2 that were just sublime. So it was great to see from Houston. I think Utah, we saw something really uncharacteristically the opposite of what we usually see, which is we always see Joel Hodgson kind of being very clinical. And in this time, I think, especially in the first half, it was just tough to watch. They were just continuing to give the ball away. And Houston just found a way to pin them deep in their end. One last thing is just, I think even when they got opportunities in the first half, you could see just how much Coltman means to that set piece, because that set piece was not the same without him. And you saw that when they subbed on Coltman with, I think, 30 minutes in. You usually don't do that unless it's a tactical or an injury. And I think it was tactical because they needed him. And yeah, it was interesting to see a set piece that's so good struggle as much as they did in that first half.
Yeah, and Utah will be kicking themselves because this was an opportunity to really make a statement against 2 teams at the top of the West. You would have locked in top of the Western Conference here. You now sit 4 points behind the team you just lost to in the Houston Sabercats in second place in the West now. They've lost 2 matches in a row. One of them to Seattle, which was, again, a lackluster, I wouldn't say lackluster, but just a disappointing performance from Utah in that Seattle match. How much of this hype is dying down? Utah was a wagon here in the middle portion of the season. Does it feel like we're starting to come back to what is expected of this Utah Warriors team and what is been what Utah fans have been seeing here over the course of the past many years they've been cheering on Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gotten to that point, but I just think that you're seeing what's being exposed is that you can't win games just off offense alone.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be times where you're going to struggle offensively and you need your defense to be able to back that up. And Utah just hasn't historically been a good enough defensive team to be able to do that. So yeah, and this is what you see when you see a defense play really poorly. And an offense that's struggling that usually is carrying their offense. It's very much for those of you who watch the NFL, very much like the Cincinnati Bengals last year.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Just a shootout. And when the offense ain't working, it
When you
ain't
got
gonna
no
be.
bullets, you're dead.
There you go. A great way to put it. Talking about the Houston side and fantasy side of things, many good performances in this one. I just want to notify, and something that Future Ryan, I have a feeling, mentioned a little bit
Uh-oh.
earlier, but check eligibilities because the cheat code that is Juan D. Oliver is no more, because he will be losing his scrum half
What?
eligibility into the Fantasy MLR playoffs. But in his second best fantasy performance of the year,
That
15.8 fantasy
stinks.
points with 2 tries, 45 meters gained, is on the board here as the highest point score from a fantasy sense in this matchup between Houston and Utah. Seth Smith, of course, with his 2 tries, one of them being that pretty set piece try that I talked about with 23 meters gained in the 46 minutes he played, gets to get 13.6. So shout out to Seth Smith, who is also a great supporter of the show. Love to see him doing
Let's
well.
go.
And then Don McKenna, 11.4 for him. Davey Kutzer, who was questionable possibly to start this game after pulling up last game, but I guess ain't nothing stopping Kutzer here because
Well,
he
he
came out
also
of the sub.
left early.
44 minutes. So I don't know.
And
I don't know how much of
Ryan,
that
you got
is
any
really your
sources on that?
no sources on this one, but I will say, reading between the lines, when a team is up by 27 points at half, and you feel like you have the game in the bag, no need to risk anything further. So not surprised that they start to sub some of those quality guys out that
Yeah.
may be at risk due to a little bit more injury. Tau Talatasi Tasi. 10.2 for him in a match. The two Houston centers doing very well between Akina
I don't think I
and
ever knew that there
Tasi.
was a second T in his first name.
Tau Talatasi Tasi.
Yeah, I thought it went straight to the L.
Learning something new every single year. All right. Utah side of things, Frank Lahore with a great performance here. 22 meters gained, 14 tackles, and a try, gets 12.9. Nick Ben with the try there, 11 or no try, 92 meters gained, though, with the 80 minutes he played. And then Joel Hodgson, 10.1 for him with the try and
And
36 meters gained. He now has tries in back-to-back weeks.
yeah, and I got to bring up Jordan Trainer as well. 129 meters gained, gets a yellow card, but he could have had a 13-point week for sure without that yellow card.
All right, let's move on now to the next Saturday matchup here. The Seattle Seawolves. They know something about scoring tries in the last minute of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is this? The second time that they've done this? And didn't they do it against
Yep.
Utah? Was it in Utah that they did
I
it?
believe they did do it against Utah. Yes.
Was it Utah last week? So now it's back-to-back weeks with last
Well,
minute.
they did it another time too. I think Malachi Eggstale scored one. I think last week was like, I forget who. And then they do it again.
Yeah. So the last minute off of a beautiful scrum set piece. You called his name out, Maddie, and we'll talk more about him in the waiver wire segment and his fantasy point performance. But OJ Noah, man of the match, looked great in this one. And yeah, I can't say good enough things about this Seattle team that seems to be rolling right now. They come away
Yeah.
again with this last minute victory, 29-25.
Yeah, Seattle's absolutely rolling, and I mean, I think it's for me, it's off the backs of a really strong kind of back row room who's playing really well, and a really strong kind of Devon Rousseau and back three and Duncan Matthews who are just driving forward. And I'm even
Hmm.
going to bring up Rodney Iona as well because Rodney Iona
Hmm.
I think has been playing fantastic, mediocre off the boot, but has been playing fantastic nonetheless. I think San Diego, like I'm not, I'm having a really hard time trying to read this San Diego team. I think you look at their back line, and you think how sloppy it consistently is and how they just really can't get anything going in the backs. And they just seem so reliant on the forwards. And you look at the way that they play in the red zone and in the 22, it's just so reliant on the forwards. And they're just having such a hard time converting. They had a really great time converting on the set piece last week, but to me, like they weren't getting the ball in the right position. They weren't able to convert. And one of the kind of I think one of the defining moments of this game, which really kind of gave Seattle the way back, is Ethan Grayson missing touch, putting it out the back on a penalty. They could have been in great field position on a set piece that they knew was going to work with guys like Shiloh Klein out the back, who they knew was really great at finding his way to the try zone. So yeah, I thought that was kind of the turning point for me.
Couple highlights from this match. Both Seattle. It was also a back and forth. Like, it was a fun match to
It was.
watch.
It was a very. It was a very good match to watch. I just think, I think San Diego's doing it in a way that it's not the same that they used to.
Yeah.
They're not the same team anymore. And it's just a little different. So,
It was said on the
yeah.
broadcast that it does appear that Richard Judd is facing injury right now. So that's why we've seen a lot more of Connor Tupai.
Yeah.
I will give a shout out though to Connor Tupai. It's every nine's dream. I wish I could pass like this, but his straight pass from deck all the way to Ryan James on the outside
Yep.
for the third try, I believe, in that match was really, really cool to see. A fun tidbit. Both, just to describe how gritty this matchup was between these two Western Conference teams, every single forward in the starting pack for both Seattle and San Diego were in the double-digit tackle numbers. So, I mean, if that doesn't describe kind of
Physical
just
game.
the physical, gritty rivalry game between Seattle and San Diego, that kind of marks it off there. But again, Seattle getting the best of it at the end with a 80th minute try to take it 29-25. Talking about some fantasy point performers in this one. But before we do, just want to ask you, is San Diego the Western Conference version of NOLA Gold right now?
Ooh, I mean, San Diego's still like performing. And they're in a playoff position. So it's hard to say. I wouldn't say so. Um, yeah, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't take it to that level just
San
yet.
Diego has now lost three of their last four matches.
Yeah, but I think the way they lose is a little bit different. Like the way they lose versus the way Nola Gold loses when they play bad, it's different. Like Nola Gold loses and you're like, what do you like? Why are you even here?
Yeah, yeah,
San
yeah.
Diego loses, it's like you competed.
True, 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 true. All right, let's start off then with San Diego fantasy point performers here in this one. Brad Wilkin, he's what, Matt?
Kiss with fire.
20.2 fantasy points for him.
Yeah. What a
For a
beast.
dominant performance, one short of what we are now calling the 2020. Um, James Dealey of MLR Stats loves numbers, and he was then asking after we mentioned 2020, what the heck is a triple double
I think
in the
triple
Berkshire?
double. I know you had something of the
I
fantasy
said
Ruckers, or somebody
a
says
triple digit meters gained, double digit tackles, and at least one turnover for a 3-2-1.
see, I think
Triple double
it's
single.
it's double digit points scored, double digit meters gained, or I guess double digit points scored, 20 plus meters gained, and 20 plus tackles.
That could work. Triple double. Okay. I mean, at that point, you might as well just say double. Just let's make it just double. Why 20? Just do 10. Just do double digits.
Sure. Sure. So double digit everything.
Double digit everything.
Double
Points,
digit points, meters
meters.
gained, and tries.
All right.
I mean tackles.
A lot of fly halves getting double doubles now. Or
Oh,
triple
they
doubles.
gotta get double digit tackles first.
That's true. That is true. Okay. So fantasy point forms again. Brad Wilkin, 19 tackles, 55 meters gained for the 2020. Scores a try as well. Two forced
Not the
turnovers
2020.
for 20.2 fantasy points. Connor Tupai had a great game as well. 87 meters gained, two try assists, eight tackles. And then Shiloh
Shiloh Klein.
Klein,
Oh yeah.
12.6 for him. And then the
What a
try
beast.
for Ryan James, 10.5. It just seems like the value of whoever is playing hooker for the San Diego Legion is bound to get you points. But Shiloh Klein
Yeah,
especially,
but Shiloh Klein was exceptional this game, I thought.
4 straight games now with double-digit fantasy points.
And he was asked to play 80. I mean, that's impressive from a front rower. Maybe less impressive from a hooker, but like he was asked to play 80 and he stepped up to the plate and he completed a full 80 minutes of quality play.
Starting or not starting, he's had 2 starting matches in the past 2 weeks, 2 coming off the bench. The guy scored 6 tries in 4 matches.
Yeah, I think honestly, like a dream scenario is you're a fantasy manager and you have both Shiloh Klein and Hugh Roach on your team.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Seattle side of things, we mentioned him. OJ Noah has been pretty solid here, and he has
Can
his
you
best
confirm what his eligibility is?
second row, back row eligible.
It is.
He is double. We'll talk
It
about
can
it
be a waiver wire
in
for
the waiver.
both.
Oh yeah, 18.6 fantasy points for a try, 63 meters gain, and 21 tackles for another double 2020 performance in this one. Rod Iona, Maddie, you mentioned him. Like he's been after what was some considerable doubt to start the year, especially with his maybe lackluster efficiency from the boot.
It's
He's
still
really
awful. It's still awful. It's still awful. Like he's still like really disappointing from the boot. Like he definitely could have had 20 points in this game. But yes, outside of that, he makes up for it.
makes up for it. Looks pretty solid so far for Seattle. Obviously, the de facto go-to now over Eddie Fuche. Ron Iona has solidified himself in that spot. Duncan Matthews. Duncan Matthews
This is 3 years ago. Duncan Matthews. He's reincarnated.
has his highest meters gain of the year at 152. Scores his 4th try of the season. He now has, since his first appearance in round 3, every single match except for 3 have been in double digits, and one of those was 0.3 off of the mark there.
And they're using him so much in their offense that it's just hard not to start him at this point.
Yeah.
It's just difficult to not even not have
three
him starting.
triple-digit meters gained performances now in the season. Again, his highest of the year in this one. And then I want to mention Devon Rousseau, 12.9. 4 straight double-digit fantasy matches now. 27 meters gained, 9 tackles, and a try. And it was almost like you were left wanting more because you've been wanting a Devon Rousseau big-time performance, but like even on his maybe is not as high fantasy performances, he's still pulling through for you. Like we have him in the Fantasy Ruckers League, and he's just fun to have because he's auto start every single time.
Every time.
And he is still the number 1 fantasy player in our season so far, 165 FARs. Spread the gap between him and Joe Mono at 10 points, and Ryan James,
Holy
who
crap,
comes
I got both of them
by 14. Yeah, Devon Rousseau still killing it there. Anything else you want to say about this matchup here?
No, I think it was a great game. Great Western Conference matchup. Looking forward to playoffs.
All right. Old Glory DC, Anthem Rugby Carolina. Not much to say about this one. Old Glory DC dominance. Basically, yeah. Anthem starts to pull. It's a classic script now, right? I feel like every time for Anthem, right? That like Old Glory, they'll stay tight maybe for the beginning, right? And then the team not named Anthem will pull away, and then they maybe will score a try or two in the final 15, 20 minutes to make the game look a lot closer than it actually was.
Yeah, and I mean it still wasn't close, but yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to say. Honestly,
anyone
like DC just
anyone
dominated.
on Anthem Rugby Carolina carry any fantasy value?
I mean, Sam Galla does. I think Clive and Laubser still does.
If Sam Galla was not a second row player, would he still carry value?
No, he wouldn't. And he's honestly hardly started for me in my lineup, even though I've had him. No, I think there's still guys. Like I think there's guys that still perform. Like you look at guys like Clive and Laubser who still gets, kicking from the tees, 32 meters gained, 10 tackles. You look at a guy like Toby Fricker who somehow finds the ball in his hands a lot on this team, which is great. But yeah, like guys I think are definitely taking a bigger hit than what you maybe have seen in past years. Like a great example to look at is Junior Gaffa. Like on a team that was competitive last year in games, he reaped the rewards from that. And this year it's just not the same. I don't know what it is, but it's just not the same.
Is Anthem at its
destined to lose
lowest
forever? Yes.
at it at its
I think
lowest
it's I
point,
think
right?
they're only at the lowest ride because we had such
High
I don't want to say
expectations.
high expectations because I don't think that like 3 wins is not high expectations. We had such normal expectations for a bottom of the pack team
We
and
were optimistic.
they somehow under us like they somehow disappointed us and we asked for 3 wins like they disappointed us and that's tough like I think that especially when you look at the lineup and you look at the signings that they made you think of that these guys were stars in the league in the past 3 years and they come to this Anthem lineup and now they're non-existent like Mitch Wilson. I don't know, like he's non-existent now. Guy who's a staple in every fantasy lineup.
Yeah.
Sam Gala, same thing. Hasn't been really there. Clive and Lobster, similar thing. You just go down the list of all the players. Junior Goffa last year, who was a staple, was a first round, second round, third round pick this year. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I to me, I think it's mostly just expectations, and
I'm
we've been
looking
unfortunately disappointed.
I will say I'm looking forward to our offseason conversation with friend of the show, Jake Turnbull, to kind of get the insights into this and how a player on this squad is feeling, kind of after 2 seasons in. Because we talked with him last offseason and
Yeah.
how the optimism heading into this one that they were on the right track. It'd be interesting to kind of get the perspective
I
after
think,
this season.
yeah, and honestly, I think to me, and I don't know how, like, I think when he talked to him, he was very big on the fact that he gets to be part of this idea of growing the game in the USA.
Hmm.
And I wonder if those people taking a step back and looking at this and saying, are we going the right direction?
Mm.
Um, we've gone more aggressive in terms of making this team a USA focused team.
Hmm.
And somehow we've gotten worse. And what does that mean for the outlook of USA rugby as a whole?
Yeah,
I'm
fair
not
enough.
sure.
Speaking on the other side of the ball, though, Old Glory DC, of course, will not have any shortage of fantasy point
You
performers in this
know,
one.
Ryan, we're going to talk about like you're going to just about to bring him up, but I'll bring him up for you. Perry Humphreys, the
Hmm.
top fantasy performer here, he somehow finds like these types of games, especially against teams like Anthem. He's going to find a way to score points, and he comes in, gets 19.7 fantasy points, a try, 88 meters gained, a try assist, and he just finds a way to have these big games,
Could
and he's
he
had that for
be
the past few weeks.
could he be a fantasy sweetheart heading into playoffs? Because he's been on a scorcher of a series of weeks here. 4 of the past 5 weeks, he's scored above 13 fantasy points. 3 straight games above that number. Again, coming off the best one, 19.7, and he's only 57% owned. I mean, if you're able to get your hand on Perry Humphreys, I feel like that's a great play right now. And when I spoke with Simon Cross, like I got the feeling that the intention is to have Perry Humphreys cook. Like
Yeah,
he's healthy now. Um,
I think you have to make a play, right? Like he's scored double digits in the past 3 games that he's played, whether fantasy kind of impact or not, being like midweek games and stuff like that. Um, but for me, like I think I'm looking at the next couple weeks for Old Glory DC, and you see next week they have New England Free Jacks. In the following week, which may be some leagues finals, they have RCLA. Um, I think that those are interesting. Like those aren't matchups that you necessarily look at and say, "Yep, like that's where he's gonna go off." So it's kind of tough, but it's hard to say no when you look at him.
Corey Daniel, 15.3 in this one. I mean, just a tackle machine. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we don't have to say it. Everyone knows. But I mean, again, 4 straight double-digit tackle performance, 15 tackles in this one. He has 2 straight games with tries as well. For 2 straight weeks with 15 plus fantasy point performance weeks, 58 meters gained in this one. Corey Dan, this is the Corey Daniel that we love to see because this is the type of impact he can have because his baseline is so strong with those tackle numbers, and all he has to do is pop in a try, and all of a sudden he's a top back row option each and every week. Damian Hoyland back at action. I know he's been dealing with some injury stuff there. We did see him earlier in the week, plays again this week, 64 meters gained. Surprisingly, scores his first try of the year here 14 weeks into the season. So 97 meters gained, a try scored. And then good to see Axel Muller back, who I know was dealing with injury as well. We haven't seen him since round 10. He scores his 5th try of the season in this matchup against Anthem, 59 meters gained, plus 2 tackles in the 80 minutes that he played. Connor Buckley scored a try Toby Fricker scored a try, and then Jason Emery with the 19 meters gain plus the 2 conversion kicks and a handful of tackles was pretty solid for
Yep.
you as well.
Yep, for sure.
All right, last matchup. We don't know how it went on this show, but I know a guy who does. So let's send out to future Ryan, who
Still
knows just how
stinks.
it went this cross-conference matchup between the Chicago Hounds and RFC Los Angeles went. All right, and let's break down this Monday night matchup. I mean, these Monday night games killing us here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show as we have to keep having appearances from me. But with no Monday night matchups next week, this might be the last appearance that you'll have here of future Ryan. But what a match we had to wrap up the week on Monday night between the Chicago Hounds and RFC Los Angeles. A thrilling victory, making it 2 this weekend in last minute tries. RFC LA coming out on top 26-24 thanks to a Franco Vandenberg try in the 80th minute of this match. And talk about an exciting way, like I said, to wrap up this week 14 between two teams that have been solid this year. Chicago obviously on a little bit of a downturn. LA has been scratching and clawing, knowing how to score points, but just not being able to get it done, largely in part due self-inflicted errors, and find themselves at bottom of the Western Conference, but not anymore. With that big time victory, we can now give that answer to past Ryan and past Matt that RFC LA have jumped Seattle Seawolves for the last spot in the Western Conference now, with even games in hand, both with 13 played, sit at 40 and 38 points. What is interesting is that San Diego, with this bye, there is an opportunity for San Diego to fall 3 spots here, or excuse me, 2 spots to see themselves outside looking in for those playoffs, with RFC LA and Seattle playing matches this week to potentially climb up here with only 3 points behind the Legion. But with that being said, going back to RFC LA, they are now in 4th place, 2 points ahead of Seattle, 1 point behind San Diego in that 4th spot in the Western Conference. But let's talk about this match overall. I mean, like I said, back and forth affair. Chicago getting on the board first, LA responding, and really just kind of that pattern all the way through. Physical game, lots of tackles in this matchup. One thing that stuck out to me, and it's something that we have talked about in this season when it comes to RFC LA, is just the relentlessness and courage to score points. At times, opting to kick for touch, which has bit them in the bum before. And it was displayed in this matchup as well, with Christian Leon-Lafano and what was probably the biggest kick for touch in the game. Missed it through the end zone and ended up getting sent back to their own territory with a return kick there. But either way, it still ended up being positive for LA with the 2-point victory. But again, just that relentlessness, opting to kick for touch instead of points. Really just kicking, tapping and going on the 10-meter line instead of getting those points. Again, just a team that is really looking to score those points, and is why they have scored the most bonus points in the entire league, with 14 offensive bonus points, or excuse me, the most offensive bonus points here this season. For this RFC LA squad. So again, a huge win for RFC LA in those final seconds of the match. Chicago falling short, and they have seen themselves drop from atop of the standings, now 6 points behind the New England Free Jacks, who they couldn't take advantage of with that loss against the Miami Sharks. They sit 6 points behind. Old Glory DC somehow finds themselves now in 2nd place, 1 point ahead of the Chicago Hounds. Now let's talk about fantasy performers in this one. No shortage of them here in round 14, obviously, with 3 tries scored in this one. We start off with some Chicago guys. Noah Brown, who Maddie is going to talk a little bit more about with that matchup against Anthem Rugby Carolina for Chicago coming up this week. Noah Brown looks like a solid play, but he goes now back-to-back double-digit fantasy point performances. This one, 88 meters gained, a try assist, 15 tackles, and to lead to 18.8 points. He now, as a winger, has 2 back-to-back matches where he has double-digit tackles. Pretty impressive there offering a pretty solid baseline. If he's able to get into the try zone, makes that performance even better. But at 88 meters gained, 15 tackles, a try assist, I will take that any day of the week for 18.8 fantasy points. McLean Jones with a try himself gets 17.6. He gets the 20 tackles, 36 meters gained, tack on a try as well, 17.6 for him. Peyton Wall, 15.2 for his second start of the year. In both those starts, double-digit performances, has exceeded 75 meters gained in both of them, scores his first try of the year in this matchup with a nice one. 75 meters gained try, 9 tackles, 15.2 points for him. Lucas Rumble with 4 breakdown steals, 13.1 points, and then Bryce Campbell, 12.6 to round out the solid Chicago players. Now when it goes to LA, Billy Meeks leads the way here with 18.7 fantasy points, 4 straight weeks now with double-digit fantasy point performances. 7 of the past 8 weeks has exceeded at least 8 points, only one of them being outside of that double-digit mark in that round 9 matchup with 8.3. But this one, 56 meters, 17 tackles, 4 turnovers forced, leading to 18.7 points. And it's his tackle high of the year. Again, physical matchup in this one, 17 tackles for him. Ed Timpson doing well for LA as well, 14.7 in only 40 minutes played, 38 meters gained, 13 tackles. He tacks on a try as well off of that tap and go. And then Nick Chan, solid play, 11.8 for him. Tim Anstey, 11.5. And Jason Daum, who has been solid, 11.4 with the try that he scored. And then Gonzalo Bertranu, even with the yellow card that he received, a try, 87 meters gained, 3 tackles in the 69 minutes that he played. Gonzalo Bertranu, I think, is a lock for that top scrum half position. So again, fun matchup, a whole bunch of back and forth, physical play, 7 tries scored in this match overall, add a little bit of kicking as well. It's a fantasy manager's dream in terms of the points that came out of this one. Hopefully for some of you, pushing you over the edge in terms of buying and getting the win that you needed to push into the Fantasy MLR 2025 playoffs. So with that being said, hey, again, that wraps up the round 14 in an exciting way. But it's time to move on to round 15, the first round of the Fantasy MLR playoffs. And with San Diego on bye, there are going to be some streamers that you need to rely on. It's all about, like Maddie and Ryan will say right here, about loading up that lineup and maximizing the amount of points you can get. So with that, we are going to talk about some waiver wire pickups to maximize those points right here.
Waiver wire breakdown.
All right. Thanks, future Ryan. Don't know how it went down, but I'm sure it was a fun and exciting matchup. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And no live bets made in this one because we made Vandy make predictions last week on the Utah game, and couldn't have aged better than milk when it came to how he went down. So no predictions there. So we'll see how it all worked out and shaped out. But again, shout out to future Ryan for giving us the help over the past couple of weeks here with these Monday nighters. All right, waiver wire though. Let's talk.
You just shouted yourself out.
I didn't. It's a different guy. It's future. I don't know him yet.
You just shouted yourself out.
All right. Let's talk waiver wire because I feel like this week
is the most important week of waiver wire.
Are you being you mean it, right?
Yeah, I mean it. It's I was going to bring it up earlier, but there's no time better than the waiver wire breakdown. This is a week where you go all in. Like there's no tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Literally, like you lose this week, there is no more playing for you. You are playing for the toilet bowl the minute you lose this upcoming week if you have made it to the playoffs. And so you have to go all in. Like any money that you have left, any fab you have left, you put it down. You maybe leave some for the finals if you really feel confident in your lineup, but you have to treat every week like a must win. And you have to do everything you can to get the best guys and put the best lineup out there as possible.
Yeah. Depth doesn't matter anymore. No. It's exactly right. Starting lineup is everything.
Yeah. And like similar to last week, like what I said, like if you haven't started a guy all week or all year and you've started him at the earlier and you haven't started in the past 6 weeks, like now is not the time to start those guys. Now is not the time to say, yep, it's time to put my faith in him. Unless it's like the juiciest matchup in the world, but you drop those guys because there's no you're not keeping them for next year. You lose them anyways, and let somebody else deal with them and put them on their bench and waste the roster spot. Um, because just know that you got believe in the guys that you've been sticking with.
To that point, it is San Diego on bye this week. So, in the middle of your fantasy playoffs, if you're a team that has been heavy San Diego, you are going to be looking for those options. And I would not be doom and gloom, right? Like you can find options here that we're going to talk about that will be more than adequate that to fill up those spots, right? If you have a Brad Wilkin, right? If you have a Lincoln McClutchy, right? If you have a Connor Tupai, there will be options here that you will go all in and just for 1 week needs to step up to the plate for you, right? There's no more leaving that spot blank, right? Make that swap and you got to go in. So starting off with the front row position, Maddie, let's talk about guys who are available that if let's say you have a Hugh Roach or Shiloh Klein, who can you drop for one of these guys? Or who can you find to stream this week for a guy that you have? I have on my list, I will say, who do I want to pick between these two? I will go with Facundo Gaddis. 0% owned, 62.4 fantasy points on the year. I believe he has 3 straight games where he has started at the hooker position for Old Glory DC. He's now gone 18 fantasy points in this week alone, plus the 7.4 he got on the Saturday. I don't believe he started because it was one of those weird things with Koi Nelligan who was in. But I
Yeah.
do think that Facundo Gaddis is that guy. And he has the upside to pay off for you. And I know that on paper doesn't look so great as a matchup against the New England Free Jacks away from home. Old Glory has an act to always step up to these New England games. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if you just get one try. That's all you're asking for, Gaddis, is just off of one line out, off of one set piece to find the try line. And I think Gaddis can do it.
Yeah, I like that. For me, I think I like Seth Smith a bit more. He's a guy that has come through as clearly enough to start enough games for this Houston Sabercats side. We saw him last year, came off the bench most of the time, except when Pita Aneasu was injured. But this year, he has rightfully earned this spot. And every time he starts, he finds a way to produce. He's had over 5 fantasy points in one, two, three, four out of the 6 games, or I guess 4 out of the 7 games that he started, which is over 50%. And I'll take those odds. And he's at 7.8 and 13.6 fantasy points in the past 2 weeks. I like that out of a Houston Sabercats team that is hot.
And what's encouraging too is that set piece play, right? Like they're drawing up things for Seth Smith
Yep.
to find the try line, right? So
Yep.
you know that opportunity is there. So again,
100%.
Seth Smith, great option. He's 43% owned. So again, if you can find him, I think Seth Smith's a good option. Facundo Gaddis, literally available everywhere. A little bit more of a risky play because there is that question of whether he will start against New England. I'm betting my money that he does, but if I had to put my money, I think Facundo Gaddis has the higher ceiling. Seth Smith is the safer play. Does that kind of better
Yes.
characterize it? I think that
Yeah,
might.
I would say so.
All right. Let's move on to the second row position. I think you and I are both in consensus in this one,
I
Matt.
think we're
It's
contestants for both of these, no?
uh what for
I mean, you
second row?
said he has both second row, back row eligibility. He is my second row and back row waiver wire pickup.
All right. OJ
You are
Noah.
getting you are getting all in one with OJ Noah. You have to. It is yeah, he's played too good for them to keep him off the field. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and I think on the broadcast they started with saying Rickard Hatting is dealing with something, so they wanted to put him in the at
Eight
the
spot.
blind side. Whatever. That's 6, essentially, and have OJ Noah at 8. And as long as he continues to do that, I think he can continue to perform. Um, yeah, like you look at his statistics in the past few weeks and you see like 10.4, 7.7, 7.2, 18.6. But don't look at that from a back row perspective. Look at that from a second row perspective and think of whether you would want that on your team. For me, like this is one of the pickups that like you can drop a lot of fab on just to make sure that you get a second rower, especially if you have a guy like Jed Holloway on your squad.
Yes. Yes. No question about it. Again, and make the most of it because this could be the last week that he has second row
And it's
eligibility.
perfect timing.
It is perfect timing. So OJ Noah, I agree with you, Maddie. I'm going all in. If you need a second row player there. Honestly, he's up there as one of my starts at second row position. Like either way, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even care what player you have at second row right now. Like I would start Sam Gall or OJ Noah over Sam Gall. I would start OJ Noah over any of the options in Houston. I would start OJ Noah over a Tavita Nakali. I would start OJ Noah over a Mason Flesh
It's just the
or
idea of like what you could have. Like anytime you have a second guy who's in your second row position playing in the back row, um, it's just of the opportunities that you can have.
yeah. And 29% owned. He's widely available. Go pick him up. I think he could be definitely at least a round winner here in the
Yeah.
first round of Fantasy MLR playoffs. I will mention just one back row option if OJ Noah is someone that you're not able to get your hands on. Corey Daniel, I think, is a very, very good play. 29% owned as well. His floor is just so nice with the tackles that he provides you each and every week. I think the game against New England is going to be a physical one. If you have any back row player like Wilkin, like Hokafanu, if you have a Christian Poitevin, you've been waiting for him to start. I think Corey Daniel is a nice little play there as well, a safe play to go amongst the midst of maybe some riskier ones that you have. All right, let's move on to the scrum half position. Honestly, not as sparse as what it has been in the past. I think a lot
Oh,
of
because guys are coming in to start.
there's something going on with AJ Warner, right? There's
Andre
something
Warner.
going on with JP Smith. We saw him get taken out to injury. We did see Brock Gallagher return, but I think it does say something that even with the return of Brock Gallagher into the lineup, they decide to go with recently signed
Yeah.
Nick Boyer. And
Because Nick Boyer's been playing well.
Nick Boyer has been playing well, exactly, and he has made mistakes. There were some costly ones that he had in that Utah game, but from a fantasy sense and from a production standpoint, like I think he's been quite adequate to fill in that JP Smith role. He would be my pickup this week if you need a starting nine. If you have a Connor Tupai, if you have a Richard Judd, I honestly at this point, like I mean, Mitch Short is not starting tonight, so if you have a Mitch Short, like I would go Nick Boyer. There are a lot of guys that I
Yeah.
would go. Like there are only a few that I maybe would not. And he plays 70 minutes, right, with the injury situation there.
Yeah.
With that. So I think Nick Boyer
Yeah.
is a great option.
I like that. I also like Jay Renton. I
Mhm.
think Jay Renton is kind of solidified that he's going to be there, especially with Wandy Oliver playing on the wing, which I assume he is going to do again in the upcoming week. Um, the only other guy that I'd really bring up is Ishmael Safodian, even though he came off the bench last week or this past weekend. He still ends up putting up in 26 minutes. He gets a try assist, 3.4 fantasy points. Can you ask for more?
He also has that like ability that he could score a try at any second, just with his
Yeah, well,
athleticism.
not even the try, like just like meters gained. Like the
Yeah.
fact that he will just go, he'll just go. It'll be a tough ask against the Chicago Hounds. So that's why I would probably prefer Jay Renton in this scenario.
Fly half is the opposite.
Literally, who cares? No, 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 no. I think
So if you have Lincoln McClutchy or
you don't have much. I mean, there's not much options left. I think you're looking at a guy like Dorian Jones. I think you're keeping a very close eye on what's happening in Houston
Mhm.
and what's happening with Davey Kutzer. If you really don't know who to pick up, yeah, it's tough. Like you could go AJ Alatimu and just hope
I
that,
would
that
I
and
would
see,
be that would be
but
my
I would
pick.
go. Yeah, I'm going Dorian Jones. So I just think that Dorian Jones he's been the best playing fly half out of that entire NOLA side, probably outside of the last midweek game. But like outside of that, like he's really been the kind of most consistent fly half at NOLA. But there's really not much. There's not much out there.
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, Matty, you're just like trying to find a starting 10 and Dorian Jones fits that and he's going to kick.
You're
And
just hoping.
You're hoping. For me, it's kind of same sentiment for AJ Alatimu. You're optimistically hoping that he maybe starts, right?
Yeah.
If Davy Kutzer sits. But I think you could even put AJ Alatimu in your lineup, even if he's coming off the bench, knowing that Davy Kutzer is not going to play a full 80. And at least in the 30 minutes that Alatimu plays, he's going to kick in a conversion or two and maybe a penalty in there that will at least get you 5 points. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean? So
I would be really interested to see exactly how Tim Swiel plays at 15 this weekend. They have the Anthem next week.
yes.
So I'm very interested to see where Tim Swiel ends up. And honestly, as I'm backtracking, I would actually go Tim Swiel
Okay.
because I think he's going to find his way onto that lineup against Carolina. He
Okay.
hasn't had enough playing time this year. He hasn't played well, and they're going to try to do something to bring his confidence back. And I think a game against Anthem Carolina could do them some good.
I'll let you play revisionist history. If Tim Swiel tonight during
If
the
you can
recording
go
of the
into future
podcast,
Ryan, then I
if
can.
I'll let future Ryan know if Tim Swiel puts an absolute goose egg up this tonight at fullback,
No,
we'll
I'll
keep
stick
it
to it.
Dorian
I'll
Jones.
stick to it. I'm
All right,
sticking to
let's do it.
sticking to
Do it.
my Tim Swiel.
All right, same sentiment here. Moving on to the center position, at least for me.
Everybody's picking up centers. That's why.
Everyone's picking up centers. It's funny, we mentioned it last show, Maddie, too, that like the center position has been underwhelming this season almost outside of Devon Rousseau. Like it really and Devon Rousseau, you didn't even draft him to be a center, right? He was going to be your fullback, and he's just been kind of slotted into that position due to injuries and things like that. And he's kind of stuck there with the emergence of Duncan Matthews. So at
Yep.
the center position right now, there's really not much. But what I'm pinpointing now is this Anthem Rugby Carolina Chicago Hounds matchup, because obviously Anthem are the Anthem, and you want to capitalize on points. Where are your best odds for that to get fantasy performances is in a matchup where maybe Chicago puts up a bunch of points against Anthem. Bryce Campbell is owned in a majority of the leagues at 57%. He would be my go-to if he's available. But what I'm going to say here to not cop out with a pick that's over 50%, I will
You are
say
confident.
take a gamble on Noah Flesh. You're
Mm.
playing, they are going against the Anthem. I'm expecting there to be a secondary lineup that
Well,
goes in, possibly.
remember Ryan? Last time they played the Anthem, they almost lost.
Yes, but I feel like this is an Anthem team that is down and out and also does not have their coach now. So I feel like the early Anthem team was much more promising at that time when they first played the Chicago than it is now. I don't know
Very
if that's
true.
re I don't know if that's recency bias, but either way, Noah Flesh at 0% owned. If he gets a spot start there, he would be a great play if you have a Tavit Lopetti or a who am I thinking of? At the other center option there for San Diego. Tavit Lopetti. Nothing, not gonna help me out here. You're just gonna look at me.
I forget who started at 12 for them
Okay.
this
Well, I'm
weekend.
figuring that. What's your center play there?
I'm gonna stick with Isaac Tsutsumaki. I think at 29% owned with the way that he's played. Yes, maybe not in the midweek game, but with the way that he's played and against a Utah team this upcoming week, who has struggled defensively, which we've already talked about. I think he can find a way to exploit. I think in the last game against Utah, he did put up some numbers. If you can, Ryan, pull up what round that was that he played Utah last,
Hmm.
very quickly.
Tatamaki
Well,
had
you're
a
not gonna
big
find it
game
on. I know
against
when he had big
13.
games. I'm Brian. Brian, I'm looking at the same sheet as you are. I just want to know when they played Utah.
Round three or 3 rounds ago, which would have been round 12, round
No,
11, round 11, right?
no,
Yeah, round 11 or round 12. I don't think he played in that matchup.
Ryan. I don't know where you're looking at
I'm
your
looking
thing.
at it right now. San Diego. Oh,
It was
NOLA. Yeah,
not
NOLA. Hold on.
not San Diego
I know,
against
I know, I know.
Utah.
I know, I know, I know. You're looking for NOLA against Utah? That was a long time ago, early March.
Okay, then he didn't do well. Anyways, still my point stands. I still think Utah struggles defensively. I think he'll
Oh,
have an
we do this for a
opportunity
living.
with him and JP Duplessis. I believe they can have a big game this weekend.
People actually listen to this podcast.
They do.
Come to us for advice.
We still win.
Um, okay, Titamaki. I can follow that. I've been on the Titamaki train for all season long, and no one's listened to me.
Not
And that
awesome.
and that 4 point dud doesn't help. But I agree with you. I mean, if Utah's gonna play the defense like they did against Houston, I mean, Titamaki could score a whole bunch of
Yeah.
points.
And back
Uh,
three, we're going all in on Noah Brown, right? That's just what we're doing.
is that what you're going?
That's what I'm doing. I'm
Okay.
going all in on Noah Brown.
No, I didn't even have him on my list.
The heck? The heck do you have on your list?
On my list. So okay, why don't you explain Noah Brown?
Well, I just think like if you're looking for a guy with a high ceiling, um, I mean, yes, he did disappoint us the last time. He did disappoint us the last time that they played Anthem. But again, Ryan, different Anthem team. This one's struggling a lot more. And just look at the plays of the wingers in the past, like Perry Humphreys. You look at the past week. I'm trying to think who was before that against Anthem. I think it was Marcos Young, who was the one before that who had a great week.
LA,
You
I
just
think.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, Noah Brown, 14 points in the past round with a try. I think he could definitely repeat that, and I think he could do well. Why are you laughing?
You just move on. Move on. Not
Why do I
Marcos
need to?
Young.
Why do I need to stay there?
No, I get you. I get you. No, it's fine. It's fine.
You want me to fact check myself, Ryan?
No. You're good. Noah Brown, all in. I like it. I'm going Malachi Esdale. If
I
he
like that
starts
one.
this week, if he starts
Played
this week,
sick.
like not a great matchup against Houston, but I can't
Rory Van Hook
deny.
put up 11.9 fantasy points against Anthem. So like, what do you want about?
I cannot. I can't. I cannot deny the fact that Malachi Esdale has passed the eye test, and he has over 50 meters gained in 3 of the past 5 matches that he's played. At least 25 meters gained in the past 4 or 5 matches. And he scores 2 tries in that time frame too. He looks great. And
Yeah.
I think he has the potential to do that. I will add, and this is specific for team makeups for teams who do not have a fly
Also,
half.
Rye, sorry, before you move on, I believe in the broadcast they were saying that they are struggling with injuries in that back 3 room, which is why we saw him starting.
Okay.
Which is why we have not seen Inafuti, Tony Pulu, and the likes of them.
And Jade Stigling, I assume.
Yeah.
All right. This is specific for team makeups that don't have a dependable fly half that is kicking. Shane O'Leary has lost his fly half eligibility, but is back 3 eligible.
It's actually sad.
He scored. It was sad because that was going to be our play of this week, and I realized that. But great off the boot. Is he the most dynamic fullback?
Nah.
No, but he's playing fullback. He is doing the thing. He is there, and he may score a try for you like he did this past weekend. He faces RFCLA this upcoming week. Two dynamic offenses that are going to move the ball, kick the ball, and play fast, high-tempo rugby. Shane O'Leary could capitalize on that and get you good points. Only 14% owned. Again, I would only start him and pick him up if you are going to give him the kicker eligibility. That's the only reason why I'm picking Shane O'Leary.
And he has to be better than any of the. If you have Duncan Matthews, do not start him in your back 3. Okay, if you got any of the guys, it is not worth it. You go with the back 3 that's going to score you a bunch of points, not just kicker points.
Yes, the ceiling is not high on Shane O'Leary. Let's get that straight. But if
you do not have anyone to play at back 3, or the guys that you have you think are worse than what Shane O'Leary could do with kicking,
or a flex play. Like I'm seeing this, he's a great pair. He's a great pair with Joel Hodgson.
Yeah, but I'd rather have like a Joe Mono, Duncan Matthews.
Yeah, I think anyone would rather have a Joe Mono or Duncan Matthews.
Joe Mono flex,
Ridiculous. Not everyone is rich like you. Okay, Maddie. All right.
Set piece.
This is the only week we're going to say this all year long outside the finals. You are playing a set piece in this matchup.
Yeah, it's literally a win-win. You don't lose points, you gain points, or you get 0 points.
Yes.
Like it's a win-win, and drop the guy. Like who cares? Like drop the guy on your bench. You don't need him. I promise you don't need him.
You have Connor Tupai. Are you dropping Tupai for defense?
No, not Tupai. Not him. But if you're sitting on like a
Gaffa,
Julian Roberts,
Gaffa for a set piece.
A Gaffa, yes, I would say him as well. If you're sitting on like I don't know, some randoms. I don't know if you're sitting on a guy who you just know you're not going to start, just drop him for a set piece.
All right. Some people have not been listening to us and have been keeping hold of set pieces, and a large part of them,
every one of them too.
A large part of them are owned. So, for example,
get into a 2-point race with me in a matchup. I'm beating you by
Warriors,
50.
Houston Sabercats, Chicago Hounds, Seattle Seawolves, all above 50% owned. If any of those are available, go pick them up. My matchup this week for teams under 50%, I am going with RFCLA.
Mm.
I think against the Miami Sharks, it's going to be a battle between these two teams. Ben Sugars has been electric in the past and has cashed in on those types of set piece plays. I think RFCLA is going to be a decent play. The reason why I also side with them is because RFCLA have been magicians at getting the bonus point. They know how to score tries. So I think they'll score at least 4 tries, which will at least get you 1 point, one singular point. And who knows? We've had ties. We've had wins and losses by less than a point. That
True.
bonus point that RFCLA gets you could be the deciding factor for you to get home, get to that next championship final round or the next round of the Fantasy MLR playoffs.
Yeah.
Maddie,
I'm going NOLA
RFCLA,
Gold.
NOLA Gold. Okay,
Yeah. I mean, they got a sneaky little good set piece, and
sure.
they're going up against Utah, who I think they can put up points with. Whether they win or not, I don't know, but I think they'll put up points at least.
All right. Well, there is the tidbits. Your waiver wire pickups again. One of the biggest waiver wire pickup periods of the year as teams head into fantasy MLR
Spend that
playoffs.
money.
All right, let's talk about the upcoming week of matches.
Rucking Rundown.
All right, week 15 Rucking Rundown. The first fantasy MLR playoff edition of the Rucking Rundown with a full slate of matches. Again, like we mentioned, San Diego
Nothing to
is
do
on
with.
bye, an official bye. No midweek matches this time. Um,
Thank goodness.
what's more impressive, Maddie? Going 5-0 or
Hey,
0
did
and
I pick
5?
Miami last week or what?
You did not.
I suck.
Yeah. Um,
But I did.
wait, hold on. You did not. You did not. Wait.
Who
No.
did? Somebody
No,
did.
no one did.
Ah.
No one did.
Anyways,
What's more impressive? Going 5-0 or 0 and 5?
I don't know how to answer that.
Because yours truly went 0 and 5 on picks this week. Picked the wrong team in every single matchup.
That's embarrassing.
Picked Anthem for the fun of it. I've now dropped to below
I don't know
5.
why. We've told you to stop.
I've dropped below 500. I'm now 35, 35, and 1.
What
Maddie,
high?
you won the week, 3 and 2. You're now 32, 38, and 1. Vandy, 2 and 3. Still in the
I didn't
lead, though,
catch you.
overall at 42, 28, and 1. So we start off with a Friday matchup between the Seawolves and the Houston Sabercats. Seawolves at home, 10:30 Eastern time on Friday. This should be a fun matchup. Seawolves on the up and up. Houston is your Western Conference leaders. I think this will be the match that really proves to me that Seattle has returned. If Seattle can even play it close with this one and not pull a Utah, screw what it says in the standings. I think Seattle is in good position here for the playoffs.
Yeah. I definitely think Seattle's definitely putting their hand up. I mean, so what they're who's last place now?
LA.
Yeah.
LA is in last place, and I
think
believe they sit only
I
3 points with a game in hand, depending on how
I
tonight
think
goes.
I think Seattle.
Seattle could be in last place
I
at
think
the time of
Seattle.
the release of this podcast.
Ah,
So.
yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. This is just a tough matchup. I think Houston just is it's too good right now. So I'm gonna go with Houston.
We do know how electric Starfire Stadium can get, so Seattle is at home.
We
But
do
either
know.
way,
And we're talking about this a lot. Starfire Stadium. Turf, obviously.
Hmm.
Skinnier field. The width isn't as wide as some of the fields, so it forces you to play a little bit more physical.
Hmm.
Which I think honestly Houston can definitely do.
If like with your insight, it sometimes makes me ask the question: if you, myself,
Oh,
and
by the way, sorry, right, I forgot to bring this up. There was this lady yelling. I never listened to the game with sound, but I listened to this game with sound, and there was just a lady yelling every minute of the entire game like this. Woo! Go Seawolves! Woo! Go Seawolves! And it never stopped. It didn't. She didn't
the
even take a
passion,
breath.
the
She didn't take a
passion.
breath. I'm pretty sure I heard Will Hooley laugh.
Well, that's why Starfire Stadium is as electric as it is because of fans like that.
Anyway, sorry. What were you gonna
No,
ask?
my question was going to be: it's sometimes with your insight like that. Sometimes when you look into the field width, and other great insight that you provide throughout this podcast, it sometimes makes me think.
I'm making
If
stuff up.
if you no, actually quite the opposite. If you and me and Vandy were to coach and manage an MLR team,
They would lose.
would we be better than Anthem?
No, not at all.
Would players listen to us?
Zero
Because
chance.
people on Fantasy MLR don't even listen to our advice. So,
Zero chance.
all right. New England Free Jacks, Old Glory DC is the first matchup on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. This one's always a treat and always the one that we have marked on the calendar because for some reason, Old Glory DC always
And
shows up to
late
play
season Old
against
Glory
New England.
DC.
Right. And this is going to be an interesting one. New England looking to get back in the win column after that dud of a matchup against New England or
Mm,
against Miami.
mm.
Um, they feel the stronger side, knowing that their playoffs are locked in? They are only sitting 5 points above Old Glory DC in the standings.
They might put out a better side. I'm sure they will. But yeah, sorry. I think Old Glory DC is going to rain on the parade here. I like Old Glory DC in this matchup.
I am
Um,
going to pick New England in this one. Going to be back and forth affair. It's going to be tight, like it always is, and I'm excited for all my fantasy players in this one.
I'm also
I'm
picking against New England Free Jacks because Jack Reeves actually made me mad when I was watching that game.
There you go. That's fair enough. I will say, I think
Ethan Fryer's
tackle.
Canadian too, I think.
I think
So it makes
tackle
me even
numbers are
more
going to be
mad.
really solid in this one. So players like Corey Daniel, Jed Melvin, Vian Conradi, I think those players are going to have a Sam Caird. I think Sam Caird's a great play in this one. I think that'll go pretty solid. All right. Anthem Rugby Carolina takes on Chicago at home on Saturday as well, 7
Chicago,
p.m.
move
Eastern
on.
time. Okay, Chicago, move on. I pick Chicago too. Play all your Chicago Hounds. Don't play Anthem Rugby Carolina players. I will say though, maybe guys like Sam Gala do have a good matchup because of guess what stat I'm going to say.
NOLA, Utah, Saturday, 7 p.m., same time as the Anthem versus Chicago game.
Uh,
Um,
I'm going Utah on this one. Don't do it, Maddie.
no,
Don't
I
do it.
can't do it. I'm gonna go Utah as well. I do think this can be high scoring though. Like I mean, Utah. Look, Utah has a lot to bounce back from after that performance. And they need to put up points and they need to show like actually they don't need to put up points. I need them to show me that they can defend the ball. But I don't think they will. I think it'll be a high scoring game, NOLA versus Utah, but I'll take Utah.
All right, Utah for me as well for those very same reasons. All right, last matchup of the weekend, Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Our lone
Way
Sunday
too late.
game, RFCLA at home against Miami. This is a big one for RFCLA. Depending on how this matchup went against Chicago this week, they could find themselves in in the depths of a playoff battle between the Seattle Seawolves. And they take on a Miami Sharks team that is on the up and up and who are also vying for that final playoff spot here. So a lot on the line. I mean, call it what you will. Maybe it's insanity about doing the same thing over and over and
What they call
over and
insanity,
over
yeah.
again. But I'm going to go LA in this one. I just,
Mm.
the only thing that's preventing LA, I think LA, I'm still sticking because LA was my MLR championship prediction.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
Not great, but I will say the caliber of team and glimpses of what I see from this team, I still believe in that. They just shoot themselves in the foot every single week, which causes them to not get the result that they need. Um, and the only reason why they find themselves in the thick of the battle, despite having a worse record than the Seattle Seawolves, is the fact that they score a whole bunch of tries. So,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with the hot team here. I gotta go with Miami. It's just easy to get behind these guys. I mean, you look at the lineup, you don't think of a lot of necessarily like stars, but you just think of really cohesive group of solid players that come together to play some good rugby. Um, and on the backs of, I guess, a star of Manuel Ardea, who I think is going to absolutely wreck the breakdown for this RFCLA team.
very excited that we do not have any midweek matches, i.e., on Monday or Tuesday. So no more
Agreed.
future Ryan, which is good to see. Get that guy out of here. All right, let's move on to talking some money here in our betting challenge.
TFR Betting Challenge.
All right, TFR Betting Challenge presented by Betstamp. Betstamp Betting made easy. Check out the link down below. Get in on the MLR betting action at the sports books available in your area. The link down below will curate the sports books that are available in your state or province. And you can check out and get some free user bets at those sports books to place some wagers on MLR. Great to kind of money line shop. It's also been quite spotty on what sports books have MLR at what times. Sometimes the year I had all 3 or 4 sports books here in Pennsylvania have MLR between Bet Rivers, Fanatics, and DraftKings. And last week they only had DraftKings. So again, great to just kind of have those
How'd I
options.
do, right?
To you. Did okay. Did pretty solid. Did pretty solid. I'm just trying to let me compare the lines here quickly as I look them up. So you had Anthem Rugby Carolina line was 18.5. It was 15.5 when it opened. You have Chicago favored by 8.5, 7.5. And funny enough, I actually have money on that tonight. $10 on the spread, $5 on the money line to go into that insanity thing about picking LA each time. Utah, Houston, you were off by 3.5. It was Houston favored by 5.5. San Diego, Seattle off by 1.2.5. And then
Two and a half.
I cannot find the NOLA game. But either way, you did.
Nola's on bye. Oh wait,
no.
wait, we didn't do that one. We didn't do that one. We didn't do that one.
The Tuesday match.
I don't think we did that one.
You did
I
5.
don't know.
But either way.
Anyways,
So with that being said, Vandy's still winning with $81. His live bet didn't work. He picked the over in the Utah matchup last week against Seattle. It fell 3 points short, I believe. Vandy with another bad beat, but still in the lead here, loses $10 out of it. I had the bet with the Free Jacks and Miami.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, I bought into the hype in that one and did not believe that a subpar starting lineup for New England would be that poor against Miami. So lost $6 out on that, but again, banking on the LA line or spread and money line tonight to hopefully get in the positives, but sitting a little bit behind Vandy for that one. Maddie, week 15 lines. Let's hit it.
Week 15 lines. Let's do it. Seattle versus Houston. Houston going to be the favorites here. I think Houston will be favored by 5.5 points.
Okay.
New England versus Old Glory. I think New England is the favorites here, but it's going to be a slim line. I think it is going to be 1.5 for the Free Jacks. Anthem versus Chicago. Chicago's favored by, what did you say last week was, Ryan?
18.5 in favor of DC. Oh, no, that's what you guessed.
No,
it
no,
was
they said 15.5, right?
15.5. Yep.
All right. I'm going to go back to I'm going to go right in the middle. We're going to go, well, I guess there is no middle of that. So we're going to go 17.5 in favor of Chicago, obviously. NOLA versus Utah. I think NOLA are the dogs. Utah are favored by, Utah's favored by, I'm going to say 7.5. I think Utah's going to be favored by 7.5 there. And then RFCLA and Miami. I think Miami is going to be favored here. Interesting. And RFCLA are going to be the dog. I think Miami is going to be favored by 3.5.
Okay. All right.
Which ones do I like?
Yeah.
I like Old Glory, obviously, because I think they're going to win. I think they can definitely cover that. I mean, I hope that the line is bigger than 1.5, honestly, in Free Jack's favor. Because I think Old Glory, like if it gets up to, I'm going to say over 3.5, that's a great one for me. I think once it gets there,
any consideration of the money line there, if you get good odds, like a plus 200.
Yeah, I would go money line for Old Glory DC for sure. Especially if the spread's at 1.5, it's essentially money line at that point.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then I would also look at like NOLA covering with Utah. I think if that line is as big as I think it's going to be, which what I say, right, 7.5.
Yeah.
I think if it's a try or above, I think NOLA can stick with it there. I think NOLA can definitely stick within a try.
All right. Depending on tonight's matchup.
Rye, I would, just for your sake, I would hit the RFCLA one. I think they're going to be the dogs. And I think it's a pretty decent chance that they can come away with a win.
All right. Well, those are Matt Sportsbook's MLR lines. They should honestly just hire you at this point. I mean, this is a great resume for you. You got all the favorites, and you were probably within. You did not miss by more than.
At a deviation average, a standard deviation of
I don't know what that
2.6.
Nice. We have to get our analytics guru. We'll get Nick to
get him to
check that out.
calculate my standard div, my STD.
You got a lot of those, right? Oh, won't touch that with the 6 foot.
Don't touch me with a 6-foot pole, right?
All right. Well, that is your TFR betting challenge presented by Betstamp. Betstamp betting made easy. Check out that link down below. Support the show and get some free bets on top of that. All right, Maddie. Well, hey, like I said at the top, and so it begins. Fantasy MLR playoffs are here. It's going to be exciting. Do or die now. NA, whether you're in the toilet bowl or whether you're in the main fantasy playoffs, it's fun to have your season on the line. It ain't stressful at all. No way. But hey, good luck to everyone out there. And hey, home stretch. 2 more weeks of the fantasy MLR season. Matt, anything left for the people?
If you're in my way, get out.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself. All right, for Matt Yee, Devin Vandy Vanderpool, I'm Ryan Yee, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Woo, let's go Seawolves!
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.